Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to this 30-minute reporting webinar. The webinar today will take you beyond basic reports and show you how to be a power user of Springboard's reporting feature. Before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me and see my screen. So if you could find the questions box in the GoToWebinar control panel and type something like I can hear you, you can type your name, your store name, and we can get started to get a couple of those responses. This questions box is also where you can type in any questions as they come up. I'll try to answer questions as you enter them in throughout the webinar, but if I'm unable to answer any questions, or if you have questions after the webinar is over, please email them to support@springboardretail.com. Definitely want to get those answered. So thanks, everybody. Let's see some answers coming in there. Okay. So before moving to reporting, I first want to tell you about some useful information about reporting that can be found in our knowledge base. This is a really great resource for reporting. So the way you access our knowledge base when you're in Springboard is by going, if you hover over it, this should be your login name. For me, it's Springboard. If you hover over your name in that top right corner, and there's a drop-down menu here that says Help and Support. And when you click that, you'll be brought to our knowledge base. So, for example, if when you're on our knowledge base or you're in reporting or anywhere in Springboard really, and you come up with a question, a really quick way to get an answer is to come to the knowledge base and just type something in. So, something geared towards reporting. So once you're looking through all those metrics or groups on a report and you have questions like, what's the difference between gross and net sales? You can come to the knowledge base and type that in. So let me just type in gross sales here. And here you'll see these first two questions, really common questions we get. What is the difference between gross and net sales, and how are sold margin percentage and gross margin percentage calculated? I wrote both of those too, so it's really just as good as emailing support@springboardretail.com. But really, any question that you have, you can find here. So another common question that we get around the beginning of the month is how to report on sales tax. So if I just come here and enter sales tax, first article right here is how to report on sales tax collected in Springboard. And if you come to the knowledge base and you find that you don't find an answer, that's when you can email support@springboardretail.com and get an answer from us. And if there's not a knowledge base article written on something, we'll write one, because chances are you're not the only person with that question. We have a lot of frequently asked questions, and we try to put them all in the knowledge base. So now for the main event, I'm going to switch back over to my Springboard account and open up a fresh report. So I just go to reporting and then analysis. So for this webinar, I'm going to break it up into first teaching you how reporting works, and then showing you some common useful reports that you can build in Springboard. Some reports that are, something you run monthly, weekly, daily, that'll be really helpful for you. So when you open up a fresh report, the first things you'll most likely look at are these 6 tabs here. This is what really goes into building a report. So the first, then I'll just go through all 6 of these before we really get into reporting. The first one is this filters tab. So this is what allows you to really narrow down a report to see exactly what it is you want to see. For example, so this defaults to, there's a date range here. So the defaults to showing you today. I could see this for week to date, and it would automatically update. And maybe, so look at this, I have 3 locations in this account, a specific account. Maybe I just want to see my sales for one location. I'll filter this. So if my location is, I'll choose Boston. So now only Boston will show up. And I can do that for vendors, anything about my items. I can do that for all custom fields. So I would just want to see one specific vendor sales. And now it's filtered down to only show me sales for week to date in Boston for Bella dresses. And you can do this for customers, purchase orders, your metrics as well. So now I'm going to switch over to groups. Let me remove these filters now. I'm going to switch over to the groups tab. The groups tab is really how you can slice and dice your data. So when you think about your report, think about what kind of report it is you're looking to build, and you'd come to the groups tab. So this is really more of your categorical data. So are you looking for a report about your items or your customers? Do you want to build a top vendor report? Well, obviously you would need to add on the vendor's name so that you can see which vendors it is that are selling the best or the worst. So you come in here and select which group you want to see and add that on. So let me add on vendor. And now I'd see all my vendors by location. Again, it defaults to showing you location. So filters today default, groups are location is the default. And then I'll go over to metrics. And this is where I can start to add on my numbers. So groups are kind of your categories, and then metrics are your numbers. So this is where I would go to add on. You can see it defaults to net sales, net quantity sold, source sales. And here I can add on, this is where I add on my gross margin, my inventory on hand, beginning, ending, current, my payments for purchasing what you've received or what's open or what you have on order. This is, again, where you really add on your numbers. Just keep going through here. Next, we'll go to compare. So this is how you can compare your data to other dates. You can compare up to 3 previous periods, and that would compare the metrics. Your groups would stay the same. Next is the sort tab, and this is how you can sort on multiple columns at once. So I can sort on one column at once just by clicking the header, or I can click select to add, and then I can sort on more than one column at once. So if I want to sort on both net sales and net quantity sold. And then last tab is the options tab. And this is how I can kind of clean up a report a little more. So if I want to remove subtotals, those can get to be a little messy. So if I want to turn those off, I can come here and just turn them off. I can exclude grand totals, and then I can also exclude rows where all metrics are 0, which is really helpful for an inventory on hand report. So that's just really at a high level what goes into building a report. Before we get started with real reporting, I just want to explain compatibility. Something that our customers often ask us is why a specific report won't run. I'm sure you've all gone to build a report and gotten that blue box that says unable to run and wonder why. The answer is often because you're running a report with groups and metrics that don't work together. Naturally, some groups and metrics just won't be compatible. So when you run a report that's not compatible, that's when you get the blue box. This doesn't mean reporting is broken. It just means that you need to look at your report and think, do these groups and metrics work together? Let me start a fresh report here. So for example, when you run a report, when you start a fresh report, this might be an obvious one. So it defaults to source sales, net quantity sold, and location. So let me add on a group here. Let's add on purchase order and ship month. And I got the blue box because naturally your purchase order and ship month can't be broken down by sales. Those just don't make sense to run together. That might have been kind of a softball. Another one that might not be as obvious, not a lot of people know, is that gift cards can't be run by location. So I'll remove this. Now it runs again. Look at that. And I'll add on gift card number. And got the blue box. Even when I add on a reporting metric, I'll remove those and only have a gift card metric, card beginning balance. And it still is not running, and that's because I have location name on here. We don't tie gift card balance to a certain location, so if you're a multi-store retailer, your gift cards can be used in any of the locations. They're not tied to just one of your stores. So as soon as I remove location name, the report runs. And then one other thing I'll tell you about compatibility is that items can be run with almost any metric. So let's add on item description. And except for gift cards. But let me go through here. So I'll remove this and add on sales. So obviously I'll just go through all the metrics. Items can be run by sales, source sales and location sales. It can be run by inventory, payments. Payments is one of the only ones besides gift cards that an item is not compatible with, and that's because we support split tendering. So if you have a split tender on a ticket, then we don't know which item should be credit card and which item should be cash. So that's what you can do a sales ticket by payment, but you cannot do an item by payment. So now I'm going to switch gears and start building some common reports. Let's start a fresh one here. And before that, I'm just going to head over to the metrics tab and go over one last question that people ask often, and that is, what is the difference between source sales and location sales? Very common question, and this question really only will pertain to our customers with multiple store locations or one of our customers with e-commerce. So source sales are the demand of the sale, where location sales is where the transaction is actually occurring. Let's go into a little story here. If a customer is shopping in store 1 and they like a dress, but their size is only in store 2, store 1 will place an order for the customer for store 2 to fulfill. Easy as that. Now, when you come to report on that sale and reporting, source sales will show store 1 getting credit for the sale, whereas location sales will show store 2 getting credit for the sale. And that would be similar to if you have an e-commerce. We would say that the online store, that's why we say that it's important to have another station set up for your online store. So an online order that comes through to Springboard, the source would be your web store, and then the location, which would be whichever store it is that's actually fulfilling the order, where the inventory is coming out of. So now enough of that, and let me go to reporting. Start yet another fresh report, and let's get into some common reports here. So first, let's do year-to-date by vendor. So I'm going to switch this to year-to-date. That's all I want to see for filters. And then next will be, I want to add on my vendor name. And now I can already see for each location all my vendors and the sales that I've had for each vendor up from January 1st until now. And maybe I even want to remove location so I can just see for my whole company my highest vendors. And let's sort on net sales as well. And I can see Ray Rose is my top vendor. Now I'll go to metrics, and maybe because I want to see more than just net sales and net quantity sold, I also want to see my gross margin percentage and my sell-through. So that would be location sales, because that's your inventory. That's where we keep track of most of your inventory sales. So the percentage of my inventory I've sold through for each vendor since January 1st. And then I also want to see my current on-hand cost, current inventory cost on hand. And then I also want to see ending inventory quantity on hand. If I can ever find it. There we go. And now I have really a breakdown of my highest performing vendors. And then I can also save this if I want to. I want to call this, year-to-date vendor analysis. Enter, and now it's a saved report that I can access whenever I want. Instead of having to go in and build it each time, I can just go to my saved reports and select it to run. And something about also going back to filters and the date range, when I go to run this report every time, I won't need to update the date range every time because we'll keep date ranges current and accurate. So if I were to run this instead for last month, this would always default to showing me the last month. So we're at the end of August now, it's going to be September soon. This report will then automatically update to start showing the August because my date range is set to last month. Same with weeks. So if there's a report I run every Monday for showing me last week's sales, it'll always default to showing me last week. Okay, so let's switch gears and run another. This time, let's do a inventory report. So I'm going to change this. Let's do month to date. There we go. And I'll do this by group. Let's go to my custom fields. Again, you can report on any of your custom fields. So I'll add on group here. And I'll also add on, let's do, where is it? Category. And maybe I don't want this by location either. And if you ever see, if you're running a report on some of your custom fields or a vendor and you see that there's a blank option here, that just means that I have items that aren't filled out. So the way I could even narrow that down to see which category it is, which group or category, because I want all of my items to have those filled out, I can just go in and add on item number as well. And now I'll see all of these. I can just copy this and open it up in a new tab, and then I can start comparing and go through and update my inventory. So just search on that item and go and fill it out, so then it would show up in the report. So let's remove that. That's just kind of how to update your inventory. And now I want to view my inventory on hand. So there are 3 ways to look at inventory. There's beginning, ending, and current. And these will all be by the date range that you've selected in the filters tab. So I'll come here and add on, let's see, I want to add on some beginning inventory. So I'll add on beginning cost on hand and ending cost on hand. And current cost on hand. And now remove sales. So if I go down to the grand total, now I can see grand totals for the beginning of the month, the ending of the month, this would be current. Inventory is saved at a point in time, so if you want to see exactly what you had on hand at a certain date, you can. And that's really the difference between all of these different tabs. So since my filters tab has month to date, so my beginning inventory cost on hand will be from August 1st. My ending inventory cost on hand would be from August 27th, and my current inventory on hand would be from today. And so since I'm month to date, ending and current should be the same. So if I change this date range to show me last month instead of month to date, now my cost on hand, my ending inventory and current inventory should be different, which they are, because now this is showing me July 31, July 1, and today. And I can also save this as well as monthly cost on hand. And another thing I'll show you besides cost is, let's go back here. Maybe I also want to run a report on, someone sent an email earlier and wanted to see a report on how to see their negative inventory quantities on hand. So I'll run that. So current on hand quantity. And I could even remove, the custom fields and just go straight to item description. I most likely don't know all my item numbers, so I'll put on description instead. And I'll sort by quantity on hand. I'll sort the other way. So I can see all my negative inventory on hand here. All right, and I can even, since I've edited a saved report, rather than clicking save, I'll just click save as again. And I'll just call this negative on hand report. And now those are 2 different reports that I've saved, even though I was already in a saved report. Okay, next I want to show you a comparison. I want to show you how that works. So start a fresh report. Let's do year to date. And then I'm not going to switch any of my groups or metrics. I just want to see my year to date net sales and net quantity sold by location. But I want to compare this to maybe last year. So I'll go add here. And I'll do this January 2014, 1, 2, August 27th, 2014. And I can do this for up to 3 different periods. So I can compare this year to last year to the year before, or I can compare a July to a July to a July to see how I'm doing, how my months are looking, how my different, if my peak season is December and January, I can compare December and January to in 2015 to 2014 to 2013, so on and so forth. So let's just save this as year-to-date comparison. So I'm just going to keep going through and show you some other reports. If anyone has any questions or specific reports they want to see, feel free to ask, and I'll try to get to those as well. So now I'm going to do a sales by hour report. That's a common one as well. People want to see how their sales reps are doing, who's the most productive in the store. So let's run this as week to date, or maybe month. Let's do this actually last month. And then I'm going to come here and I'll do this by location. So I'll keep location on there and I'll add on, who do I want to see? My sales rep. And then, looks like I didn't have any sales reps filled out on this specific account, but I still want to add on time, hour. So if I had sales reps here, their names would also show up by each time. But this will give me a breakdown, I'll just remove sales rep, of my sales per hour. So I want to see this descending, and I also want to see net sales ascending. So I can see, remove this one, I can see what are my busiest times in the store, when do I need to have the most staff in, are different stores doing better in different hours, and I can even see this, if I want to see this for the year, if I want to see last year. And once again, there's the compare feature, so I could see this for different times and different years, see what's changed, and just go through here and I also want to save this and well, again, if I had sales reps filled out, I could also see this by sales rep and see who's done the most sales that hour at any specific time. So I'll save this as sales per hour last year. Next report I'll show you is the transaction log. So let's see, that's another fresh report again. And I want to run this just for yesterday. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to put on ticket number. So I'll add on, I get lost in here, add on sales transaction, ticket number. And I'll tell you also, so the ticket number would be a point of sale ticket, where invoice would be a sales order invoice, and then sales transaction number would be both. So I'll add on ticket number, I only want to see point of sale tickets. And then I can also add for each of these the item number. So I can see which on each ticket, the item number. Maybe I'll remove this location as well. So this would just be a transaction log. Maybe I also want to add on the customer's name for each of these tickets. So on their first name and last name. And then you'll see this is getting a little messy with all these subtotals. So I'm going to go to options and just turn that off. That's kind of a tip or a trick there. And now I can see for each customer, and I can see maybe my sales reps are forgetting to add on the customer name, and that's important to me. So I can go in and I can tell them to not forget that, or I could even make that a required field in settings. So I think I'll run one more report and then leave time for some general tips and tricks. And if there's questions, I can answer those as well. So let me go to one more report would be showing you, and I'll just show you a saved report, which would be, I'll go to more so I can see all my saved reports. I can see all the reports I just saved. So I want to see, let's see, where is that? Oh, here it is, open PO. So I want to see all of my by location, by vendor, my purchase order number, and the total quantity open on PO and total cost on PO. So that's why it's so helpful to save reports so that I can just go in and run them really quickly rather than having to go through and build it every time. It's also helpful just because these lists are so long that I can, rather than spending forever looking for exactly what it is I'm looking for, I already have it built so I can just run it every time. And again, to save that, I can just go to save. And if I want something always to appear at the top or in this drop-down menu, so it's a report I run every day, I can star it so that it always shows up. See, there it is now. Other tips and tricks about reporting are that you can rearrange these columns. So a lot of people don't know that if I want to see vendor before location, I can come here and just drag this up. So then now my vendor is showing up before location. I want to remove location and just see vendor and purchase order number. And I can do the same for reporting. So if I want to see if anything has been received already, I can go to gross received quantity. Nothing there. These are all is an open PO, so obviously nothing's been received. And I can just rearrange these to see exactly the report I want to see. I wouldn't have to start over and select my groups or metrics as I go. I can just add on whatever as I see it and then rearrange from there. Something else is that I can, again, remove subtotals, include grand totals, exclude grand totals. I'll add those on. And then you would see by vendor and exclude metrics where all rows where all metrics are 0. So we store reporting information in the URL here. So if I'm a sales associate and want to send my manager a report, I can just send them a link to this report and they would see exactly what I'm seeing. And that's also helpful for when you have an issue with a report to send to support@springboardretail.com. You can just send the link and we would see exactly what you're seeing and let you know if something is not compatible, if you need to remove a group or a metric to make the report run. And in case you haven't noticed by now, another tip here is this date ranges field. So a lot of people will go in and if they want to do year to date, they'll go in and manually look for January 1st. But what you can do is we have a group of canned date ranges here that you can select from. So you can just really quickly, rather than searching for your dates, you can just really quickly select year to date. And then you can also export reports to Excel or PDF, and that's helpful for if you want to print a report, you can export it to PDF and then print, or Excel, and you could send that out to your company. If maybe you don't give permission for sales associates to view reports, you can just export them to Excel and send them to them. Send them the link to the report. So let's see. I have a question here of how do you make customer name a required field? Great question. So if I go to settings and then POS, right here I'll see require customer to complete ticket and require sales rep to complete ticket. So I'll go back to reporting. Again, that's settings and then point of sale. Next question is how do you delete a saved report you don't want anymore? Another great question. So let's go to reporting and I'll go to saved reports. And from here there's this checkbox and then there's a button that pops up that says delete reports. So if I kept doing one wrong and saving it incorrectly, I can go in and delete multiple at once and just click on delete. And from here, I can also star them. I wouldn't have to star them from the report. I can go in and say, oh, this is when I run a lot. I want this starred and to appear at the top. So before we wrap up, I think that's all the time we have today for reporting. I want to remind everyone about our customer referral program. So remember that you can get a $300 Springboard Retail software credit for each business you refer that becomes a customer by September 30th. You can see more details about that at springboardretail.com/referral. Because hopefully you love Springboard as much as we do and tell all of your other store owner friends about it. But again, that's all the time we have for today. But hopefully from this you've learned from how to run reports that will help you analyze your business to a new level and help you drive and improve your sales. Thank you, everybody. And again, if you have any questions going forward, start to play with reports yourself after this, feel free to email those to support@springboardretail.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.